Welcome to Mac Geek Gab 934 for Monday, June 27th, 2022.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to Mac Geek Gab, the show where we answer your questions, we share your tips, we share your cool stuff found, all the stuff that you send in to us. And if you want to send stuff into us, feedback at macgeekgab.com is where you're going to do that. And the goal is by taking all of these things, our questions, our answers, your tips, your cool stuff found, we mash them all together into an agenda, with the goal being that each and every one of us learns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include Otherworld Computing and their new miniStack STX, the Thunderbolt 4 hub that you want for your Mac Mini. And then we're also going to talk about one of my other podcasts, Small Business Show, here at businessshow.co. So we will talk more about those in depth in a few minutes. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John O'Brien.
And here in LA, sometimes referred to as Lower Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, Pilot Pete.
LA on Eastern Daylight Time. Pilot Pete, you shared with us a quick tip in the pre-show that immediately made it to top billing. Would you please share that with us again?
If you insist, sir. Yes, I will. So the backstory behind it is I found myself having to replace my modem and my router when I got to our place in Pensacola. I don't know if they were hit by lightning or what, but I was having really cruddy service on my 2.4 gigahertz band off my router. And I'm going, what are the apps that we use to scan and figure out what's best, what's not best? And I stumbled across this really cool thing that's built into the OS, the Mac OS. So on your little Wi-Fi pie-shaped, quarter pie-shaped symbol up in your menu bar, hold down the Option key and then click on that Wi-Fi symbol. And then click on Open Wireless Diagnostics. And you get that little help wizard that comes up. Ignore that wizard. Instead, go to the top left and you'll see the menu bar, and one of the words up there is window. Click on window and a drop down will come up, and among other things it'll have the assistant, which you're already looking at, info, log, scan, performance, sniffer, sidecar, diagnostics, monitor, yada yada yada. Click on scan, and scan will tell you all about the networks all around you, and it'll tell you which channel is best to be on for your, which channel to set your router to for the best 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz channel.
Yeah, this is the amazing part, right? So it shows you everything. And then, on the left here will give you the best 2.4 gigahertz channel, the best 5 gigahertz channel. It takes a minute for those last two items to show up because it's doing its scan, right? This is amazing. Now, this is what I'll call a myopic view of things. It is not the best channel for your entire house. It is the best channel for that Mac in that location, knowing nothing else about what's going on. So if you're going to use this, do it on a laptop if you can, and bounce around your house, rerunning this in a few different places so that you can truly get a feel for, what it's telling me. It tells me channel 11 in one place and channel 6 in 3 places. So I'm going to go with 6 on 2.4, that kind of thing.
But that it's built into the operating system is even better, right?
How have we not known about this before? Like you didn't find this by Googling. You found this by sniffing. Is that right?
I was just putzing with the thing. And, we always say, hey, hit the Option key and see what comes up.
Yeah. Well, we've known about this, though, like the wireless diagnostics, the trick of you going to the window menu and finding, and there's tons of things there: assistant, info, logs, scan, which is the thing we're talking about, performance, sniffer, sidecar, diagnostics, monitor. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how we've missed this for all these years, but
even a blind squirrel, as I always say.
Hey, man,
I won't finish that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's pilot's lingo, folks. Pilot's lingo. Yes.
Twice a day.
It's amazing. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Good stuff.
That's assuming that you can set the channel on your wireless.
Fair point. Many mesh systems do not give you that option.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
No, they don't.
Yeah. I can on my router, so
right.
Set it on your router.
Yeah, and some meshes will let you do it. I think Orbi will. I think Eero will not, if memory serves, right, John?
I have not found a way to set the channel on Eero. So.
Yeah, and I don't think you can on Plume either. That said, I've found them to do a pretty good job at figuring out which is the best channel. I mean, the idea is you've got these mesh points all over your house. They probably have already done this for you, and you don't need to run around and do things. So yeah, they know stuff, which is good. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited. I like it. All right. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. Larry tells us another one. He says, I learned about this trick just today. Like many of you, I'm sure, I schedule my whole life with calendar. And if it was not written down, I would just be sitting at home staring at the wall. Case in point, he says I had to create a calendar event to remind me to write you folks this. Uh-oh. I think, Pete, you just cut me out, man. He says, when my van is in the shop, I utilize the paratransit service here in Orange County, California. And when I make an advance request with them 1 to 3 days in advance, they check their availability and tell me the time. But because they have to accommodate everyone, they give me times down to the exact minute that their pickup window will begin. He says this means that sometimes they will tell me, we will book you up at 10:12 a.m. Calendar only likes to offer options in 5-minute increments, unless you long press the minutes in calendar on your iPhone, and then you get a 10 keypad where you can enter the exact time with whatever you want. This is now, if only they could allow me to add more than 2 reminders, give me more options, etc., etc. He says I would actually use Apple's calendar. He says instead I use Fantastical, and that's the reason I use BusyCal. So yeah. It looks like we've got noise outside everywhere today, John. I think Pete and I we're upping our game to match your outdoor noises today, but makes it fun. So, any thoughts on that? Have you used that, John?
On occasion, yes. Or usually I schedule it on the Mac, which lets you type in anything directly. But yeah, the iOS interface is less forgiving.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever knew about the long press thing. So pretty cool. We've talked a lot about eSIMs and international data and all of that good stuff. I have found in many cases when you buy a data-only eSIM, especially a prepaid one, which is what most of us are going to wind up doing, we go to eSIM-DB, we figure out our plan, we get the QR code, we buy it, of course. You get the QR code, you add it to your phone. And in quite I don't want to say many places, but certainly in quite a few places, we found that the data might still not work. We are all super trained correctly to be very wary of enabling the data roaming option on our default plans, because if you do wind up roaming, depending on what your plan with your postpaid carrier is, you may wind up finding yourself with lots and lots of surprise charges at the end of the month. So we generally leave data roaming off. On your prepaid plans, especially these international ones where you're, buying a plan that works in multiple countries, feel free, as we have found, to turn data roaming on, because that is often what's required on these prepaid plans to get it to work in specific countries. Like when we were traveling through Greece, I think we were fine in Greece with whatever plan we were on. And then when we got to, I want to say Croatia, it didn't work. And we were like, oh, what's going on? And we looked at the list, nope, this is on the list. And then it was like, well, wait a minute. We've already paid them a flat rate. They have no way of charging us. Let's turn on data roaming, see what happens. Boom. Sure enough, everything was fine. So I would say with those prepaid plans, turn on data roaming. If it's a data only plan that you're buying for a fixed amount of data for a fixed period of time, just turn on the data roaming, and then you won't have to worry about it. So, yep.
The corollary to that is to turn off data roaming. If you're just on your regular phone and you're over there and you want to use the phone, turn off your data roaming unless you do want an outrageous bill.
That's right. Yeah, or turn off data altogether. I mean, that's the beauty of the dual SIM in the iPhone is,
Right.
You get to pick which SIM is going to be used for phone calls and which SIM is going to be used for data. And you can tell it, okay, use my primary SIM for phone calls and SMS because my data only SIM doesn't even have those features, and then use my data only SIM for data. And the iPhone makes it super easy. There is a toggle in there where you can turn on automatic data switching or something. I can't remember the accurate name, but you'll see it right there on the screen where you choose your data. And in most cases, I would say you probably don't want to enable automatic data switching if you're using one of these there. So, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the phone really, like Apple has a lot of these things covered in a way that makes it super easy to use, which I'm stoked about. So, yeah.
I got my roaming on. Another.
You have your
tip.
wait. You have your roaming on your standard plan.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I think that's how it came.
I always leave mine on when I'm in continental U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
I ran into a problem with that near the Canadian border.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. That you could wind up picking up stronger signal out, but
correct.
But I found like when I had an old legacy plan with another carrier, when I got up into the deep woods of Maine, I was not getting the service, and so if I put it on roaming, I would pick up another service.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. But the question is, are you paying extra for that? I would check with your carrier before you just randomly turn on data roaming for your postpaid plan. And when I say postpaid plan, I mean your Verizon plan, your AT&T plan. Actually, Mint Mobile is they are not technically a postpaid plan. They are a prepaid plan. So unless you've added money to your account for international or for data roaming, let's call it, you could turn it on. It's like they don't have a way of charging you. They might not give you any data on these when you roam to these things, but
there's that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I would be careful of that, John, on a Verizon plan.
Well, along with Pete, I've never had an extra charge. So
right, but we back things up even though we've never had an incident where we've lost data. I mean, it like it's we wear seatbelts in cars even though we haven't been in accidents that have killed us. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, there are things that we do because we know they are a good practice, not because we've had the experience that requires it. Yeah. I would be very careful with that especially when you're traveling near borders or when you're traveling in rural areas, because you might pick up a carrier that is not, one with whom your main provider has a peering relationship, and then you're going to run into charges. Yeah, I'd be careful with that.
Well, yeah. I never have, but
I understand.
Now, another thing to add is if the people that you get service from have an app, get it, because at least with Verizon, they will install a little data widget that you can see on Control Center, I think. That tells you how much data you have left.
Nice.
Always nice to know.
That's they
also and at least Verizon and I think most others, if you are approaching your cap, they'll let you know.
They'll alert you. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I get those texts from Mint Mobile. In fact, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when Overcast decided to just consume all my data in a 10-minute car ride. Oh yeah, it was great. Mm-hmm. So good. So good. Yeah, I think we talked about that on the show. You were not here, Pete. It was the one Allison Sheridan was here with us, I believe. All right. We got to get her back sometime. She was good. All right. Anyway, moving right along. Dominic goes back a few episodes to episode 929. He says, You wonder how you can tell how well a Qi charger is charging your phone. Well, he says, because I was asking, because if your phone is connected wirelessly to your Mac, well, then you don't get to see the diagnostic data that you could get when you're plugged in. And of course, if you're charging over Qi and you plug in, you are no longer charging over Qi. It will switch to the plug because that's much more efficient. It says, however, if you have iMazing, it will tell you, place your phone on your Qi or MagSafe charger. Then in iMazing, select the iPhone in the left-hand column and click on the battery symbol at the bottom right of the window. A pop-up appears telling you, among other things, what the charger is rated at and what the iPhone's current charging rate are in watts. And he sent us a screenshot, and sure enough, it shows that the charger is at 1 voltage and the phone is charging at another. So this will answer the question of efficiency of your Qi charging system. Now, it is also good to remember that your phone will intentionally ratchet down the amount of juice it pulls in as you approach a full charge. So if you really want to see this, get it charging at like a 20 or 30% on your phone and give it a minute to ramp up to where it needs to be, and then do your measurements, or do your measurements all the way through. But just be aware that it will fluctuate through the process. But yeah, thank you, Dominic. That's the answer to that question, because we've never really been able to get that before. So I like it. iMazing. What a great. Those folks know what they're doing over there. All right. Craig, there have been a lot of issues. I think Monterey has, and this, I say this anecdotally, because it happens on many of my Macs. I think Monterey has wake from sleep issues. We've seen it very specifically with Thunderbolt devices. We've also seen it sort of randomly on Macs that may or may not have Thunderbolt. But there are wake from sleep issues with Monterey, and they've gotten worse, not better. I think 12.3 was where they really started to shine. So, listener Craig has a tip, though. He says, on occasion, my new Mac Studio will not wake from sleep. This has happened maybe 2 times in the last month. I can bang on the keyboard or mouse all I want, but no joy. He says, I was pleasantly surprised and also presently surprised to find that instead of having to force a shutdown on my Mac Studio by pressing and holding the power button, just a quick press on the power button would cause everything to wake up and come back alive and fully operational. So try that first. If your Mac is in a state of what appears to be not waking from sleep, tap the power button and see if that wakes up the screens. I have dug into this on my Mac Mini, especially in the Intel Mac in the studio suffers from it doesn't want to like re-enumerate Thunderbolt devices when it wakes from sleep. So I don't let this Mac actually go to sleep. I let the displays turn off, but I can't let the Mac go to sleep because otherwise I can't use it when I wake it up. I have to reboot. My Mac Mini in the office, my M1 Mini, I have not done that yet. But I'm pretty close to it because I have this issue where I will mash on the keyboard. And what's interesting is it seems like it's only the displays that don't want to wake up, or the user interface doesn't want to wake up. Maybe that's a better way to say it, because I also can't VNC into it successfully in those cases. But I can SSH into my Mac in those cases, and it's fully responsive via SSH. There's nothing that's like sluggish or any of that. There's no processes running amok. It just doesn't want to wake up the user interface. And so at least from there, I can issue a shutdown command and not just have to hold down the power button.
Let me offer some ignorant conjecture.
Please do.
Is perhaps the Bluetooth also sleeping. I'm assuming it's Bluetooth mouse and keyboards, and so that's sleeping. And then until you touch
not.
the power button, then, okay, all right.
Yeah, no, it's a good conjecture.
Like I
for
said,
sure.
ignorant conjecture. But
well, ignorant because I didn't share details of my setup. My keyboard is wired in. It's a USB keyboard.
No, I was thinking about the question. With the Mac Studio.
Yeah. With the Mac Studio, it might be all wireless and all that. Yeah, and it certainly could be that. Yes, you're right.
Saving power in the sleep mode of the Bluetooth devices, getting them to shut down. But.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I'm curious to see how this evolves as we get into the new OS and all that stuff. But
and the ancillary to that too is I don't know about you, but it drives me nuts on the Mac laptops that if you have it in the sleep mode or you have it off and you want it off and you want to clean the keyboard, the darn thing turns on.
Oh yeah.
The power button is for turning my computer on, not any other key on a laptop.
Well, correct. I agree with you. I also completely understand why Apple has made it so that any key wakes up your computer.
That way one key failure doesn't.
Well, but also we're so used to waking our computers with the space bar or whatever.
Okay.
If it's turned off and we start hitting the space bar and nothing happens, well, now there's a support call, right? But if we make it so that the space bar and any other key also starts up your computer, hey, we just eliminated, some percentage of support calls. So
fist shake. I'm sorry, man.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But I do understand why Apple might choose to do something exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I found sometimes I have to jam on the Touch ID or the power key on my MacBook Pro in order to wake it up. My expectation is that the first time I put my thumb or whatever finger, I think I use my thumb. The first time it doesn't get it. And I'm like, no, come on, wake up.
Interesting. I mean, you should be able to wake up your MacBook Pro, well, either by opening the lid or just by hitting the space bar. You shouldn't need to hit the power button or Touch ID at all. I mean, unless it may be after the fact, right? Like once it's awake, it might want you to log in and then you'd use the Touch ID. But there's something. I assume it's running Monterey, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know what Apple's done there, but there's clearly some issues. For those of you, because I know some of you are going to ask, if you are the type of person who would want to SSH into your not sleeping, but also not responsive Mac to shut it down the right way, the shutdown command, and you don't have to write this down because I've already put it in the show notes, is sudo shutdown -r now. It will ask you for your password. Make sure you are in the right terminal window, connected to the right computer before you issue this command, because whatever computer you do it on, this will cause it to restart effective immediately. But it does quit all your apps and flush all the disk caches and do all the things that you would want to, most of the things that you would want to be done. It unceremoniously quits apps, so it doesn't give you the option to save things because you're not in that user interface. But it is a nicer shutdown than simply holding the power button for 10 seconds and letting it literally pull power from the motherboard. So, so it's and you got to put sudo in front of it, and it will ask you for your password because generally speaking, you need to be root to force a computer to do a system-wide thing like shutting down. One last little tip that showed up in our Discord group, and then we've got some follow-ups, and we'll talk about NFCs a little bit. We've got we got all kinds of things. We'll share some information about our sponsors, and it's going to be great. So Todd in our Discord channel at macgeekgab.com/Discord says, with regards to your do not disturb focus, he says, I have a bunch of contacts in the allowed people and some apps in the allowed apps. And then it hit me that I would hate to have to recreate those lists if something went sideways and I got caught. He says, so I've taken screenshots of all of my focus groups and I've saved them to a note that's synced with iCloud. This is super smart. I mean, obviously, if you're just migrating from phone to phone or restoring from a backup or something, it should pull these things in, but it never hurts to have those backups in a visual way so that you can you can compare and be like, oh, right, this other app that I want to have in my exclusion list. Boom, there it is. So yeah, good call, Todd. I do that a lot with when I have to migrate routers or something where there's just lots and lots and lots of settings. I will just go through page by page and take screenshot after screenshot, and works out. I mean, why not? Right? Like at the very least, you can go back. Yeah.
So where does one set their focus groups?
Well, this would be in settings. Good question. And I think, isn't it just in general? Is it in, I forget where I set all my focus stuff. Oh no, it's just settings focus. Yeah, right there. Settings focus. And then you can add as many groups of focus as you so choose. And they can each be tweaked differently. It's a wonderful thing. So yeah. At least that's where I do it on my phone. And on the Mac, I'm trying to think of where. So on the Mac, it's in notifications and focus inside system preferences. And it's the second tab there. So yeah, you can fire that up as well. And you can see all your
I see it. Notifications and focus.
Yeah, notifications and focus. Yeah. It's and then you can add different things. I talk about my nuclear group where I have just the people that just the four of us in our family. And I have my podcasting group where I have you guys and Paul Kent and Shannon Jean, with whom I do the Geek Gab and Small Business Show podcasts. And then you can also set apps. So I have Discord and Mac Geek Gab as apps that are allowed to get through when I'm in podcasting focus. So yeah, it's pretty good. I like it. It's the way it works.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I see. Oh, I actually set some at one point. Yeah. So you're in the group. Yeah. Important people are in the group.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a Keyboard Maestro macro that puts me into that I trigger when we're going to do, for example, this show. It launches all the apps that I need launched, quits apps that I might not want to have running. And I have it now put me in my podcasting focus mode so that I know that the interruptions that I get will be desired, at least theoretically desired interruptions. And then, of course, from there, I have an automation on my iPhone that turns off the air purifier in the studio when I am in podcasting focus, and then another automation that turns it back on when I'm out of podcasting focus. So, it manages it all. Automation is, man, it's pretty cool what these computers can do. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. Should do a show about what computers can do. I think people would like.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah, people might tune into that.
I think so.
Nah, no one would listen.
Nah, forget it. It's silly. All right, let's tell them about our sponsors, if that works for you, Mr. Braun.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah. First up today is Other World Computing at MacSales.com with their OWC miniStack STX. So this is stackable storage and Thunderbolt hub with expansion. The miniStack STX is shaped just like a Mac Mini, and it's built for your Mac Mini to sit on top of it. So you can add a mix of up to 5 Thunderbolt devices, 3 USB devices, and 2 displays. And you can use with Thunderbolt or USB equipped Macs, PCs, iPads, Chromebooks, Android tablets, virtually anything that supports external storage. This thing's got 4 Thunderbolt ports on the back of it, and then you can just use them any way you want. One goes upstream to your Mac, and then from there, you're good to go. Inside it, you've got the dual drive dynamo. There's a universal SATA drive bay that holds a hard disk or an SSD. And then when you need to support low latency instant access operations, the NVMe M.2 SSD slot has everything covered for you. So put what you want inside it, connect what you want outside it. This really is your Thunderbolt hub with storage. You can get one for $279 empty, and then you can go all the way up. You can get right from them. You can get an 18 terabyte drive in there and an 8 terabyte SSD or anything in between. You want a 2 terabyte drive and no SSD, no problem. Just go mix and match. Get what you want, and you're going to love it. Go check it out. The miniStack STX from OWC at MacSales.com. And our thanks to MacSales.com for sponsoring this episode. Next up, well, is me. Not me here, but same me, Dave. I'm the co-host of another podcast called The Small Business Show. I do it with Shannon Jean, who has direct ties to our Apple community here. Shannon was the co-founder of both TechRestore and before that, MacResQ. He's a Mac guy, an Apple guy, just like the rest of us. And Shannon and I have run several businesses together over the years. 7 years ago, we decided to start doing this show. And at first, we thought we were doing a show for small business owners, hence the name, The Small Business Show. What we realized from our listeners, what the show is about is thinking with your business brain. So just like here, the show is ostensibly about being a Mac user, an Apple user, but really what we talk about is using your troubleshooting brain to enhance your life, right? And then other things like, cool things that we find. And the same is true of the Small Business Show. We're just using a different mindset to approach solving all kinds of problems. It's that business brain mindset of always looking, where are the angles? What can you do to make sure you're living that charmed life, taking advantage of, all kinds of things. We're huge fans of credit card loyalty reward programs. That's a big key to living the charmed life. We're always talking about things like managing how to budget for stuff and how to increase your productivity without driving yourself nuts, without having to rely on discipline. We've got all kinds of these tricks and stuff that we talk about. We answer people's questions similar to what we do here. If you're into learning how to think more with your business brain, or if you're someone who thinks with your business brain and you want to join a community of like-minded folks, businessshow.co. That's where we are every week. The Small Business Show with Shannon Jean and me, businessshow.co. Check it out. And yeah, thanks for checking it out. We appreciate it. Thanks for everything. All right, John, you want to talk to us? We got a bunch of follow-ups about NFCs. Do you want to take us there?
Will do. What is NFC, you may ask? Near Field Communication, and it's basically the wireless technology that your phone uses to talk to other things. But we explored this a while ago, so you can, and I didn't know this, I thought it was just a read thing, but apparently your phone, I think 13 and beyond, or maybe 12 and beyond, or maybe even 11 and beyond.
I think it was, I thought it was 10R could write NFCs, but I may be ascribing a feature that didn't exist back then.
Yeah, so the cool part is your phone has the ability to write to NFCs, but you need an app to do it. So I found one a while back and mentioned it. So anyways, John says, I checked out the NFC writing app you mentioned on episode 933 called NFC QR Code Document Scanner. It does all sorts of things. It does the scanning for free, but writing to NFC tags requires a subscription of $3 a month or a $70 one-time fee, which I did not find to be the case with my version of the app. I use a free alternative that does writing for free, and I think the functionality of the writing and address card is actually better in the free app. The free alternative is NFC 21 Tools. And I checked it out, and yeah, it's good. Cool. I wanted to describe what I consider better about the free app. You can choose your address card using either of the NFC apps, but only the free one, NFC 21, lets you remove some fields before you write to the tag. I wanted to do this because the address card I have for myself and my phone includes my home address, and NFC 21 let me remove any fields I wanted before writing my address cards to NFC.
Nice. Huh. Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, PJ Mickles in the chat at live.macgeekgab.com or macgeekgab.com/discord, because they kind of go to the same place-ish, points out that the app that you mentioned last week also enabled him to write for free. So, whatever the limitation is, the two of you didn't hit it, but listener John did. So, but good to know about NFC 21 tools for sure. Yeah, good stuff. Anything more on that, or you want to answer Terry's question or address Terry's question? I guess. Not really.
Yeah.
I don't think we have an answer. But, yeah.
I think I do. Well, we'll see. All right, so Terry says, all right, so he took the app that I recommended, and he says, I have tags and programming is easy. When I program a tag for a URL or a contact, it works. When I program my Wi-Fi, I get nothing. When I read the tag, the Wi-Fi name and password is there, but my phone won't read it. My friend's phone won't read it either on an iPhone 11 Pro. Not critical, but now I'm curious. Could it be the tags? Should I buy different tags? My experience has been no. I don't think it's the tags. For whatever reason, I don't know, but Apple's parser doesn't seem to like all data types. And I did a little experiment. So I took one of the utilities and I wrote out, I think it was a text field. So you can just write a bunch of text to the tag.
Okay.
You can write some other things too, but I found that unless you run the app, it will not read it.
Could you run an Apple script to launch an app?
Not sure, but yeah. What and so here's the experiment.
No, it would have to be a shortcut, Pete.
Okay.
And that does work. You can, because there's no Apple script on iPhone, right?
Right. Yeah.
But shortcuts, yes, there are, and you absolutely can write a shortcut to do a thing when it senses an NFC tag. And for that, you don't even need to write anything to the tag. You just take the tag, and then during the setup process of your shortcut, you tap your phone near the tag, and it will get the ID of the tag, and then okay, great, I know what to do. Everything's great. But that is a very intentional thing, right? Like I can do that. You would
have to have the shortcut on your phone. Your guests would have to have it on their phone, and they aren't going to.
They aren't going to. But that's exactly right. But yes, you can do that. But I think so. Go ahead, John. You wrote just generic text out to an NFC.
Yeah. Tag? So I tried to. So the thing is, the NFC apps will have templates for various data types, as mentioned before. There's a business card. I tried two data types. So one of them, I wrote a telephone number. You can write a telephone number. And when I held up the phone, not running the app, it read it just fine. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. But if I wrote a text string, I had to run the app in order for the phone to recognize that there was something it should be reading. So I don't know the answer. That's my answer. Sometimes you got to run the app.
I had, I swear, I have memories of being at a Mac Tech conference, and they had written. I say they. It very easily at Mac Tech. Nobody is the smartest person in the room, right? Not the conference organizers, not the speakers, not the like everybody's smarter than everybody else. And it's like, I love it. It's great. So when I say they did this, it could very well have been the conference organizers, but it also might just have been an attendee. But there was a bunch of NFC tags stuck outside of a few of the different conference rooms, and you could just tap your phone on it, and they had the Wi-Fi credentials right there and connect to the network. So I swear that I have done this. However, this was many, many years ago. I remember having an iPhone XR at this event. So that can perhaps, normalize the year for us, or at least identify the year for us. And it's possible that Apple has removed that functionality from current versions of iOS. I don't know why Apple would remove that one, and maybe my memory is flawed. I mean, my memory is definitely flawed. Maybe in this instance, we are seeing that flaw surface, but I swear that it worked. For those of us that had phones, because I think the 10R was the first phone that would read NFC without you needing to like run an app or do something to tell it to read NFC. I think the 10R was the first one. The 10 would not. The 10R would. The 10 you had NFC, but you had to like put it in a mode where it would read. But anyway, I definitely have seen this happen before. I know Android phones can do it. So it seems to have been a choice for Apple to not allow Wi-Fi credentials to be shared with NFC, which is it seems like an odd choice to me. I don't know.
Dave, I seem to recall at the last Macworld, there were NFC tags, though, being used. And I don't recall whether it allowed you onto a given Wi-Fi network or things like that, but they were using it way back then. So, but for some reason, I feel like it was to get you onto a given Wi-Fi network. That, an NFC was becoming, the big thing in retail, so that as you walked into a store, they could tell what rack you were spending time at.
Yeah, right. Well, that was the whole beacons thing. That was different. I mean,
okay.
Similar, like
similar technology, different actual implementation, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. I don't know.
I bet someone out there has an answer to
feedback at macgeekgab.com.
Wait, feedback at macgeekgab.com?
I think he said feedback at macgeekgab.com.
I did indeed. Yeah, right. Yeah, let us know. We'd love to know. Good stuff. Listener Jonathan has a question for us, and I swear I'm going to find it. Yeah, Jonathan says, I've been having some strange things happening when using my browser on my Mac, on my iMac specifically, although I don't think that matters. It seems to happen across all Safari, Brave, and Chrome. I mainly use Brave, but I have seen this on others. It does not seem to occur on phones. The issue is that I have been, getting lots of Captcha challenges. 2, I got a SSL version or cipher mismatch when trying to go to Amazon of all places. And I got another one that says your connection was interrupted. A network change was detected. Any advice on chasing this down? So I'm not entirely certain we are answering Jonathan's question with this, but I have seen very similar behavior, and I've seen it happen with iCloud Private Relay. Every time I go to my bank's website, I am told that I'm connecting from a different place, and I need to, tell them my uncle's name or the name of Pete's favorite cat or something. I don't know. But I think iCloud Private Relay only affects Safari. I didn't think it was impacting everything else, but it might be, depending on how these things are doing what they're doing. So on a few of my devices, I have turned off iCloud Private Relay, and I'll try it again every few months and see how it goes, because I know Apple is working very hard to make it seamless in every way. But yeah, I mean, your IP address is changing as a byproduct, as the intentional byproduct of iCloud Private Relay. And so, yeah.
I am an avid user of the Brave browser, and I haven't noticed that. I have noticed what you said, every time I go to log into Amazon or something like, hey, you're at a different place. Yeah, okay, I realize that. And I'm using private internet access, VPN, those sorts of things. So, hey, you're logging in from a different place. So I even quit trying to save cookies to it. But I don't think it's the Brave browser. I find that to be actually an exceptionally well-accepted browser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it's the browser. I think it's something about the network connection. Yeah.
You said it was across browsers, but just sticking up for Brave here a little
bit. No, that's great. Yeah. Do you use Brave as your primary browser, Pete?
Switch between Chrome and Brave.
Interesting.
But what's funny is I noticed recently that I still have Safari as the default. So if I click on a link, it comes up in Safari.
Right.
But I find that to be more, here's a technical term, persnickety.
It is.
It's less accepting of a lot of the things that people are trying to do on the server side than Brave and Chrome
for sure.
to be. Yeah.
Yeah, like we couldn't do this. This I mean is StreamYard, which is how we connect to each other. Yeah, the whole WebRTC thing and Safari is but still evolving. But it could be, for listener Jonathan, the issue could be that his ISP is changing his IP address frequently. I mean, I ascribed it to iCloud Private Relay because that's what it does. But if his ISP is constantly renegotiating his lease and giving him a new address, when I moved from Comcast to Consolidated, I started noticing that too, and that's without iCloud Private Relay. And it's because Consolidated, gives me a new IP address a couple times a week, and they're all over the place. I'll get one in Massachusetts, I'll get one in Vermont, occasionally I'll get one in New Hampshire, which is where I am. But it is fast. So and
there you go.
Expensive, right? So, and I've alerted them to this, and they're like, "Oh, we never thought about the lease times affecting people's banking sessions." And I'm like, "Yeah, yep, sure does." They're like, "No, it makes perfect sense." They're like, "We're going to take a look at that." I'm like, "Great, sounds good. Keep up the good work."
You don't have control over the lease time in the modem?
No, because it's a PPPoE connection. And even with cable modems, you don't have control over the lease time. The lease time if you're using DHCP, which I'm not yet with Consolidated, but DHCP lease times are controlled by the server.
Okay.
So, but like on your router, you can control the lease times for your internal network,
sure,
but not, the address your router gets is up to, whoever controls the upstream. So, which I don't think you could control that.
I thought it was, for some reason, I was thinking on the, 192.168.100.1 go to your modem interface so that you could set your lease time in there. No. Okay.
No. Unless your modem is your router, but then you'd be setting your internal network.
Internal, not your external. Yeah. Yeah. I get that the ISP should be the one having control over the amount of time you get on a given IP.
The good news is with DHCP that even with a short lease time, most of the time when you renew your lease, you keep the same IP address. So even if you only give it an hour lease, as long as the connection remains up, if it's renewing the lease every hour, it's just going to keep the same IP, which is why cable modem customers, generally have an IP address for months or years or weeks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you IPv6 or 4 on Consolidated?
Consolidated does not have IPv6.
Okay.
So yeah. So I've had to turn off IPv6 on the Comcast side of my connection. I mentioned recently I still have both so that I have a backup. But if I leave IPv6 on the Comcast side, traffic just randomly goes that way because it's like, oh, if we're going to go IPv6, we have to go this path, can't go the other one, even though it's primary. So it's like, all right, let's turn off IPv6 over there. Thanks.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Michael has a fantastic follow-up for us from recent episodes about VPN. And we'll let Michael take it away.
Hey, John and Dave, it's Michael in Long Beach. You guys were talking about, I think it was the last episode, maybe the one before that, about VPNs. And, private internet access came up. They have a very good deal going on. It's like $79 for 3 years, something like that. Very inexpensive. And I had been a customer of theirs for a while, but I always found the speeds very slow. And I moved to ExpressVPN about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and their speeds were incredible. But in doing my research the other day, when you're talking about how cheap it was now, ExpressVPN and private internet access are owned by the same company. They also own Ghost VPN. It's a company called Kape Technologies, Kape. So that's interesting. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe it'll all roll up into one thing eventually, unfortunately. But same company owns both. So interesting. All right. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. And you're right. Kape seems to have acquired many of the big name VPNs. So, let the buyer do their research. I don't know that there's anything we as consumers can do about this because it seems like the good VPNs are. Are we still? Oh,
like Michael's still running in the background.
We got a butt dial from Michael in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting. They seem to have picked up, like you said, private internet access, ExpressVPN, ZenMate, CyberGhost, and they're spending a lot of money to do this.
So in the conspiracy theory world, is Kape VPN better known as NSC or CIA VPN?
Yeah, or the Russian VPN. Kape is what kind of a company is Kape? Like, where are they located? Kape Technologies. I'm not sure. I had a feeling, I have some memory that they are not a U.S. company, but I don't have anything in front of me that confirms that. So they may very well be, but I thought they were not a U.S. company.
When I was shopping around again, I was looking for because I heard somebody on a radio at one point going, all these VPNs and they're owned by and they can access yours. I'm like, okay, I kind of looked for it, but I couldn't really find much of anything. And I would imagine anyone owning VPNs and wanting to look at your stuff would make it difficult to find.
Yeah.
Along the same conspiracy theory line there.
Right. Right.
But it's encrypted. I use it just to bounce my IP around to keep my ISP from targeting me in ads. That's my main reason. And then my secondary reason is when I'm overseas, I like to be able to watch some of my television content. And
totally. But depending on your router, you can just VPN into your house and do that.
Right.
And that will work.
But I was at Comcast and I was worried at that point. I was worried about, hey, I'm using a couple terabytes a month and they were going to limit me and all that. And then you were kind enough to let me borrow yours.
Use my VPN all you want. I've got more bandwidth than I need and it's completely unlimited. Yeah. So, no problem. In fact, I tell anyone who connects to my Plex server to at least attempt to do it with unlimited no transcoding, right? Because by default, if you're a Plex user and you connect to someone else's, like a Plex server over the internet, it will stream at a lower bandwidth because the presumption is that most people don't have a decent upstream to stream to you. But I do. And so I'm always very happy to encourage people to go, because that way my server doesn't need to transcode anything. It just barfs it out just like it does to my TV here at home. So if your downstream and your internal Wi-Fi is fast enough to handle, a 25 megabit per second 4K stream, by all means, enjoy. That's what it's there for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one time you were peeking over my shoulder and you were like, you're streaming this at low res. Why don't you kick it up a notch?
Yeah.
And I had to set it on my end.
Correct. It's I can control the maximum that, any of us that run a Plex server can control the maximum that we allow people to stream from us, but the client has to choose how much to ask to pull down. So yeah. And it's in Brian Monroe, I think, in the chat room is asking where that setting is in Plex. I think it's different in every client. So, on the Apple TV version of Plex is going to be slightly different than the Roku version, but it's generally in the quality settings, inside the settings portion of Plex. So, go take a look. All right, we got some feedback on T-Mobile wireless internet speeds from listener Jonathan. You want to share that, John?
Sure. So he says, I'm a TMO. And I'm like, I didn't know they offered home internet.
T-Mobile? That's their stock ticker. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have been since it was in beta 3 to 4 years ago. It was originally 4G, but then moved to 5G. It's been great, but proximity to the cell tower is important. I'm only 2 blocks line of sight from my tower, probably why they asked me to be in the beta, and I get about 550 to 750 megabits down, depending on time of day, and 100 up, reliably. Now, your mileage may vary based on your proximity to your cell phone network's tower. A good proxy is your cell phone performance. If you get good performance on it, you'll probably get good home internet performance because it's the same thing. They ask your address when you sign up, and they won't offer the service unless you get adequate performance. Oh, that's nice. That's all for a flat $50 a month, unlimited, regardless of whether you're an existing customer or not. Verizon has similar service, but their advertised price requires a qualifying cell phone plan.
Verizon is greedy. I think Verizon's the greediest of all the U.S. carriers.
Could be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at their prices.
Yeah. So $50, what you see is what you get. My other choices are Comcast and DSL, and there's no way I would get those speeds for that price, if at all. Think 15 megabits per second down and maybe 2 up. Wow. And we don't mention Comcast in my house.
Yeah, the 15 down and 2 up would be DSL speeds, just to qualify that for folks. Yeah. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So if you're in the boonies, it's probably not viable. But if you're not getting Comcast or fiber out there either, maybe DSL if it's available. I would check into Starlink out there, but it's significantly more expensive. Last I heard, it was going to $135 a month plus the equipment fee of $600. Ooh.
Yeah.
Unless you have a business case for symmetric internet, I can't see any reason why someone would stay on wired internet, even fiber, at this price. Wireless wiped out the landline phone business. Yeah, I think it did. I think it's also going to wipe out the wired internet business. Building towers is as expensive as it is way cheaper than running any kind of wire. Yes.
Yeah, well, fair. Yeah. My question for Jonathan or anyone using, 5G internet to the home, T-Mobile, Verizon, whatever you're choosing to do, would be latency and consistency of that. When I am on my fiber connection here and I ping, say, www.apple.com, I see very consistent results, and they're all in, let's say, the 20 millisecond range. But it's every result comes in and is, within 1 millisecond of the others, right? It's all this very tight, consistent pattern. And that's really important for things like video chats and that sort of thing. And voice calls and anything that requires gaming. Gamers care about this a lot, right? Because, especially the twitchy gaming, if you've got some lag, it's going to throw you off and you're not going to be able to compete. So I'd be really curious to hear what kind of ping times you get from the T-Mobile 5G, especially in a sort of perfect world scenario that Jonathan's in. So yeah, if hopefully we'll hear some follow-ups from folks, feedback at macgeekgab.com, because we would love to know just how, it certainly from a speed standpoint, 900 down and 100 up, or 800. Sorry, he's saying 600 down and 100 up. That's amazing, right? That's better than you're going to get from Comcast, especially on the upstream. And that upstream is super important these days, and unlimited bandwidth. You're not being throttled or you charged more if you upload your backups and things like that, like Pete was talking about. So yeah, interesting. But I think if the latency is within, I'd say if it's 50 milliseconds or less and is pretty consistent, then yeah, man, I agree with Jonathan's presumption that wireless internet will outpace wired pretty quickly, which is great. I like it. No cables to fail. It's good. Just gotta have power. So yeah, fun.
Yeah. I was having some weirdness the other day with my wired service. Normally, as he pointed out, wired service is a lot more predictable, or at least it should be. But I was streaming something on Netflix the other night, and all of a sudden I got the spinning wheel of pain. What's going on, man? So I tried to ping test the Apple, and I was dropping packets right and left. And I'm like, oh, great. So I power cycled. So I've learned the way to solve this, and we found this a couple of weeks ago.
I was just going to say, this problem plagued us last week when we were going to do the show, right?
Yeah, I may have to get another cable modem, I think.
Yeah, or jump to fiber. Now's the time, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everybody's offering it in my area now.
Cheaper, faster. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, I'd do it.
I just have to figure how to get it into this room. I think they're going to.
No, you don't. That's up to them. Just call them and order it. It's not up to you to get it into the room. They will do that. That's part of their service. This is not your problem to solve. Mm-hmm. They know how to do it. They do it all day long, every day. Mm-hmm. You're going to be good. Yeah. I wouldn't stress about that, man. That you have many outdoor walls in that, on that room, right? It's a corner room.
Mm-hmm.
You're golden. You're golden. That's a 10-minute job to drill a hole through the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part, like the part that took the longest when they put fiber in here, was getting the fiber from the street to the outside of the house, because that they needed to be very meticulous about and wire it all up and do it the right way and make sure the bends are at the right angles and not too tight and all that. But once the guy had done that, then they did that without me needing to like be here, because it all happened on the outside of the house. I happened to be here, but it didn't matter. And then when they came back to do the appointment for actually installing it, it was just like, oh yeah, well, I'm just going to drill right through here. Is it cool if I hang the ONT inside? I'm like, yep, that's good. And I came back 10 minutes later and he's like, yeah, we're pretty much up and running. Like, perfect. Sounds great. Thanks for your time. So yeah, I would just call him. Don't have to sweat it. That is a solved problem. All right. We had a contest last week, folks. Well, maybe not a contest, a homework assignment for because we need a term for that maneuver that we've all done when you take a cable from underneath your desk, and you are underneath your desk, and you want to hang that cable gingerly on the back of the desk so that you can then climb around quickly but carefully and grab that cable before it falls back down. And so we had many contributions here. Jose will lead us off. He says a possible phrase for the cable dangle. How about the over-under used in a sentence? I had to do the over-under to plug in my charger behind my desk. Used in a sentence, man, that is super efficient. I could see myself using that. Obviously, there's like betting terminology that also uses the over-under, and so maybe this doesn't stick, but I like it. It's not a bad contribution, and I could see myself using that. That's good. Karen wrote in and says it's desk and dangling, so maybe it's Desk-a-ling. Desk-a-ling the cable. Okay. All right. I like, these are terms of efficiency. That's how language evolves. That's how language evolves. Listener Michael, with his butt dial, comes back.
Hey, John, Dave, this is Michael in Long Beach. Most recent episode talking about that maneuver with the cable under the desk, just enough to grab it. I would call that the dangler.
Dangler. All right.
Yeah, I did a dangler and it fell. Oh, well. Better luck next time. Love the show.
I had a dangler and it fell. Better luck next time. I had a dangler and it fell. I mean, like, that's the show title. Whether or not that term sticks around for us, John, I don't know, but for sure, that's a good one. Thank you, Michael. Bjorn wrote in and says, you complained about this lack of a standardized term. As soon as I heard your request for an easier way to explain this, it came to me. You are not table cable able. Put that into circulation, and it should soon be obvious to all and sundry what you are talking about. Table cable able. All right. Okay. But that has to be more. That's not the maneuver. That's more about the person. Like, oh, I did it. I was table cable able. I like it. All right. Sure. Fun. Last one for today. Keep these coming in. Last one for today is almost a cool stuff found. In fact, it is a cool stuff found. He says, listener Scott writes in, he says, you wanted a word for the hanging cable. I was thinking along the line that it is a dance between you and the cable. That's fair. Says, so I looked at wordcombiner.com. John, I've never heard of wordcombiner.com. And he says, I told it to find possible words for dance and cable. And the one that came up that Scott personally liked was dancel, D-A-N-C-L-E. A dancel. You got a dancel. So it's like a dangler, but a danceler or a dancel. All right. Sure. I like it. And also, I like Word Combiner. I could see many hours being, I don't know if wasted is the right term, but I think it might be the right term. So
I just use duct tape.
Is that seriously how you do this? You put some duct tape on the back of your desk so that you can stick it there and then pull it up?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I have done that.
That's smart. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Why wouldn't duct tape work? Duct tape solves everything. All right, MacGyver and Braun. I like it. We've got time for a few cool stuffs to be found. Listener Todd says, check out the Hand Mirror app. I'm jumping on Zoom calls day in and day out and generally want to know if I look like Gandalf the Gray or Gandalf the White before heading into a meeting. He says, so I use Hand Mirror, which is available at handmirror.app, which lives in my Mac's menu bar, so I can quickly peek at myself before putting fear into my coworkers. It works immediately and saves me from having to open Photo Booth. A bonus tip, he says, you can set it to open with a keyboard shortcut. Ooh, I like this. I never heard of Hand Mirror before, but that is an app that solves a very real issue. Just take a look quick before you join that call and realize, oh my goodness, I don't have a shirt on. So yeah, it's good. What? That hasn't happened. That doesn't happen to everybody else?
Or you're not wearing pants.
Well, that usually doesn't matter unless you're getting up and doing a little jig for people on calls, which has been known to happen, to be fair. Yeah, it does. Yeah. It happens. Yeah. Hey, I bought a bunch of these years ago, but I recently had to use one. You know, where you have a wall wart, John, and you need to plug it into a power strip, right? Happens all the time. And you know, the wall wart is the wrong orientation or too big, and you either have to put it in the power strip and give up another slot or another plug on the power strip. Well, and you can spend as much or as little as you want on these, but on Amazon, I bought a 10-pack years ago of these short little, they call them outlet savers. Really what they are is just 3-pronged extension cords that are, 8 inches long or something. And you just plug one of these into the power strip and then dangle your dongle off of that, man. Boy, if we didn't already have a title for the show, you could dangle your dongle all day long. And it works really well. Now my power strips all have these. I keep a couple in I call it my just in case. It's a case of things that I bring with me to gigs for when, something goes wrong, which is pretty much every gig. And so I keep a couple of these in my just in case for gigs too. And they're lifesavers because you just plug it in and then you're good to go. It doesn't matter the orientation of the power strip or the wall wart. Everybody's happy. So I'll put a link to the ones I bought in the show notes, but obviously you can, there's, it's Amazon. You find a jillion of these things. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Another nice thing I found. So some vendors, but not all, will actually design their wall wart to be thin.
Yes.
And also I've gotten some power strips that have extra space on like the last plug, which is also another thoughtful thing. But I like yours too, because then you can turn any
outlet. Doesn't matter the orientation. Yeah, because I'll have a power strip where things are, oriented one way and the wall wart tries to be thin, but is oriented the wrong way for that power strip, and it's going to take up multiple outlets anyway. It's like, I appreciate the thought, but alas. So
that's a great piece of gear. I want some.
Yeah. Well, if you need one, I was going to say if you need one today, you can come get one, Pete, because I have a few extras, but you can't.
Be there in 24 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. Amazon will be there likely faster than that. So yeah. And to get them to your house in Florida, it would take you 48 hours. I could give it to you in 24, but then you'd have to keep driving. I don't think that would be such a good idea. Be a long 2 days, Pete. That's how we count them with the 24 and the whole. There's this thing called UTC Zulu time. I'll explain. Pilots use it. It's one of these things.
I'll look that up.
Okay.
Maybe a Mars day or a Plutonian day. Who knows?
John, you want to share Dominic's fist shake here?
Yeah, it's a good one. You said something about querying and interpreting smart data, or not being able to. Howard Oakley recently posted an explainer, or perhaps a fish shake, on the subject at Eclectic Light. His fish shaking point is that somebody, looking at you, Apple, needs to step up and use macOS's new frameworks to write a userland driver that can retrieve smart data from external USB drives, as Apple has, with good reason, made the aging SAT Smart Driver the only thing that can currently do this, only installable if one downgrades one's Mac security. Okay.
Yeah. I love Howard Oakley. And I think he's right to shake his fist at this. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure some third-party tools will install this. Yeah. DriveDX, from what I recall, can actually do this, or I think they include that driver when you install it.
Okay. But now with Monterey, does that you have to reduce your whatever your Mac security to do it? Yeah. All right. Well, good stuff. Thank you, Dominic. Dr. Dream sent in a cool stuff found for an app. He says, it's an app called Duplicate File Finder. He says, I'm working on multiple messes on my iMac. Much of the issue is my own bad practices, and I'm trying to improve. I found this app, Duplicate File Finder, and I'm very impressed with it. And he sent us a screenshot, and it does what it says. It looks and finds duplicate files of all types and kinds and all of that good stuff. And so there's many apps that do this, and I'm glad to know about yet another one. Thanks for sending that along, Dr. Dream. Always good, and always good to hear from you, too. Listener Wayne shared Parsec with us, John. He says, I use this app called Parsec to remote into my Windows machine from my M1 Mac. It's designed for gaming, so the latency is super low. And he says, I prefer it over TeamViewer. Plus, it costs less if you purchase a license, but that's not necessary. Parsec can be installed on the remote machine as a host. It will run in the background and not cause much of a fuss. When you need to provide support to someone, just connect to the host and you can take over immediately. So in the remote access tech support department, low latency might actually be a really good thing, because sometimes trying to control somebody's screen with Zoom can be a little bit herky-jerky. There's a little bit of latency there that can be frustrating. So parsec.app. I like it. It's good. Fun stuff. Yeah? Anything on that before we keep trucking? We've got a couple more. We're gonna do it.
Love those. The remote control, so to speak.
Yeah. Listener John, also back to episode 932, says, as I was listening to 932 this morning, when you were talking about the magic of the Measure app on the iPhone, he says, I immediately thought of iMeasure, a free iPhone app which will help get the correct measurements for ordering prescription progressive glasses from online sellers like, Zenny or Warby or iBuyDirect or any of those. He says, it came in handy for me when I bought frames recently. The prescription I got from my doctor did not include the measurements for the distance between your pupils, called the pupillary distance. He says, which is a required piece of data when ordering. Well, he says when ordering progressive lenses, it's a required piece of data when ordering any lenses, because some frames will put the lenses too far apart, and you need to be able to sort of focus it on where your eyes are so that you don't wind up with weird vision issues or headaches. He says, so I downloaded the app and had the measurements as soon as I opened the app. No signing up for an account or any nonsense. And it's called iMeasure, and we will put a link in the show notes. And this is one that you're going to want to go to the show notes at macgeekgab.com and click, because John shares one word of caution about finding the app. If you simply search for iMeasure in the App Store, two apps will come up. One is iMeasure, and the other is iMeasure Pupillary Distance. The one just called iMeasure is the one that is free and has a privacy policy that says they collect no data about you. The other one does track you and has a monthly or annual subscription. We don't want anyone getting caught. Thank you, John, for helping us not get caught. Good stuff. One last cool stuff found I have is Sonos Voice. The Sonos for a long time has been making speakers that can either be your A-Lady or your Google Assistant. But they recently added to those voice control. Now, if your speaker is on A-Lady, it can do both Sonos Voice and A-Lady. If you have it on Google Assistant, it can only do Google Assistant or Sonos Voice. So just bear that in mind. But what's cool about this is, well, a couple of things. Number one, it allows you to do so much more than the voice integration with with A-Lady or Google Assistant does, specifically regarding what you can do with your speakers. So like the other day, I walked into my living room, something was playing in the kitchen, and I simply said, "Hey, Sonos, join the living room to the kitchen," and boom, instantly the sound was coming out. And that's the other great part of this, is not only does it have all of these features that are missing from the other services, everything is happening on device. It's not being sent to the cloud. So there's no privacy issues, but there's also no processing delays. It hears you and it responds on device locally in your house, and it is immediate. So makes really all of this stuff really just like instantaneous, and it's been wonderful. I've been super stoked with Sonos Voice. So I just wanted to make sure everybody that is a Sonos person knows about this. That whole on-device, locally responsive thing makes a huge, huge difference. And it's on any Sonos speaker with a microphone is capable of doing this. And so you can you got to go into the app and enable it on your specific speakers, each specific speaker, I should say, and then you're good to go. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome to know about then, because I've been using I think it's the Sonos One.
Yeah.
It has the A-Lady built in to start. And early on those worked. And then I found myself on a network at work that had a bit of a firewall on it. And I could go, "Hey, A-Lady, what's the latest news?" Here's the latest news from AP Worldwide.
Right.
Crickets.
Oh, interesting. Well, you're not going to like, this is the Hey Sonos is only for controlling your speakers.
The speaker itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not for getting it. There is no external connection. So this is for play, pause, grouping. I mean, when I say there's no external thing, like I can tell it to play a certain song from Apple Music and it will go and get that from Apple Music.
Right.
But the processing of the voice, I haven't tried to say, "Hey Sonos, tell me the news." I don't think it's built to do that.
Okay. Well, I'd be interested then to see if it was, but because the ancillary to that was my daughter took one of the Sonos One to her dorm and was never able to get it to connect. I don't know what it is that the university has done, but she's like bummed because she goes, "I really like the speaker, but I could never get it to play my stuff."
Now, Sonos in dorm rooms is a disaster, usually because and may just be a non-starter, and that's generally because you need to connect your Sonos directly to the Wi-Fi, right? It's not a Bluetooth. I mean, some of them are Bluetooth now, but for that functionality, it needs to be connected to the network. And most college networks require authentication, and your Sonos won't do authentication. And also the school might not want you to. The only way I've heard of people doing it at colleges is calling the IT department and having them put in an exception for the MAC address of that speaker, so it gets to bypass the authentication. They'll tie it to your account or whatever. Sure. But and some schools are accommodating for that, and some are definitively not. Now, if your dorm room has an Ethernet jack, some do, many don't. You can get a router and plug in your router, and then you could connect Sonos to that, which would be a better way of doing it anyway. Right. Because if you connect your Sonos to the campus-wide Wi-Fi, well, now every Sonos speaker on that campus-wide Wi-Fi is one Sonos family, and that might not be a good, unless they VLAN your dorm room or something, which maybe, I don't know.
Oh, I can imagine the disaster of that at 2:00 in the morning. Playing. Wake up to some good grunge at 2 a.m. and
exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My favorite is to wake my kids up early in the morning with Tom Jones' "What's New Pussycat?" What's New Pussycat?
There is I can't remember the comedian's name. Look for it on Spotify.
It's John Mulaney. And
that's right.
And it is the best lunch he ever had. That's where I got the inspiration. Yep.
Yeah. That was John Mulaney, "What's New Pussycat?" It's a scream.
I am not proud of this, Pete. I guess I'm going to share it anyway.
You might have done it.
I may have done this in a place that had like one of those jukeboxes you can control with your phone. Like you buy credits or whatever and you control it with your phone. And so we did this, and they finally power cycled the jukebox because it was driving them crazy, appropriately so. And then my son said, well, okay, we shouldn't play that again. He says, do you have any more credits? And I said, yes. And he said, all right, well, now we want to get the most bang for our buck with our credits. He says, see if you can play Rush's 2112, which is an entire album side as one song. And sure enough, 2112 came up, and I was like, all right, great. 22 minutes for one credit.
Beautiful.
That was fun. But yeah, we might have done the John Mulaney thing. Hey, if there's something you want to listen to and it's not What's New Pussycat on repeat, it is going to be So There I Was, a podcast all about aviation, and it is from our friend and your friend, Pilot Pete. And Fig.
And Fig, yeah. Fig's on there. We're up to 6 episodes now. 7's actually been recorded. 6 and 7 are the same gent who we, not in a disparaging way, all you had to do was pull his handle once and he was off to the races. He talked for about 95, 100 minutes without coming up for air.
Let's have a party. I love you.
There you
That's
go.
Chatty Cathy. There it is. You pull her string. It's good to go.
So, but a great raconteur of aviation, a fun listen, and we're going to have him back for more in the future for sure. But
cool.
Yeah, come listen. So there I was.us. Looks like about 150 people are listening. On
Amazing
show. So
yeah, you are like right on the cusp of being more popular than 99% of all podcasts.
Well, help us out here, MGG listeners. Share it with your friends if you're not interested in stupid pilot tricks and aviation stories. Pass it along to a friend who might be.
There you go. Thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. John, do you have anything to share?
Not at the present time.
Okay. Thanks to CashFly for providing all the bandwidth for us. Thanks to Otherworld Computing and the Small Business Show for sponsoring this episode. I know I'm thanking myself there, but it's okay. It's how it works. Thanks for Pete for managing to figure out how to join us despite all the issues.
Yeah, well, and how to get you to unjoin us in the middle of a question. Sorry about that.
It's all good. Hey, it's fine. It happens. Pete, what advice might you be able to share that's not only relevant for this audience, but also relevant for the audience of So There I Was, the best new aviation podcast on the planet?
Well, unlike what I tried to do earlier today, all I can pass along to you folks is don't get caught.
Made up.